and welcome to the Mary Harrison Show. We really have a great episode for you today. I have a wonderful person who I'm going to be talking to. His name is Robert Kennedy III. He is the CEO of Leap Leadership Mentors, leadership trainer and coach, and also a communication consultant. And today he's going to talk about his new book, 7 Ways to Know You're Meant to Lead. Robert, you're so welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate the invitation.
My pleasure. You know, I was looking at your material, and I've been to some of your events. You know, we actually sat on a panel at Bowie State University. I think it was Career Day, and we just kind of connected in terms of our focus, communication skills, and I thought that your topic on leadership is so essential for not only today's youth, but anybody, because I think it's a topic that a lot of people don't really understand.
Right.
And being an expert on leadership, I want to ask you to kind of tell our audience, first of all, what is leadership? How do you define a leader?
Well, that expert word is pressurized. You put a lot of stuff on me with that. But anyway, leadership, I like to define it. John Maxwell, one of my mentors, his definition is simply influence. Leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. If you're able to influence people to act differently, to envision, to have different perspectives, if you're able to do anything that causes them to step outside of what they would normally do, you're a leader. Any directional change for people, anything that you do that causes somebody to look to the side or to change their direction or just to think differently about where they are, what they want to do, that's leadership.
It sounds like it has nothing to do with title, position, or authority. So anyone can be a leader.
It really doesn't.
Okay.
Yeah, anyone can. And I don't believe that there is this one place that leaders exist. They don't exist just in the workplace. They don't exist just at the head of an organization. I believe each of us has leadership potential, and there are different areas of our lives that we lead. So,
Right.
for instance, myself, if I was not the owner of a company, if I was not ever a director or supervisor, I have a wife and I've got 3 kids. I'm a dad. So in my house, I've got to lead in some way.
Absolutely.
You know, and when I'm not there, you know, I don't even say when I'm not there, but my wife also, she's got leadership responsibility in my household. She's got to influence. She's got to do certain things so that my kids know what they need to do. We've got to train them. So each of us has different areas of our lives that we're going to lead at some point. We've just got to be prepared for it and be willing to take on that mantle.
We're doing these things naturally,
Yep.
instinctively, like you were saying, as a parent, you know, and just kind of transferring those skills to maybe a business or to the workplace
Right.
does not mean that we don't have it in us.
Right.
So it sounds like you're saying great leaders are made and not necessarily born, or you're acquiring it naturally or organically, but then you can hone it even more
Yes.
by strategically focusing on certain skill sets, right?
Yes. I look at it as, let's use the example of basketball. There's some people that are just more naturally talented at basketball. There's some skills that they don't have to work as hard at.
Right.
So they are going to end up being better basketball players. But if I gave you a ball and said, hey, bounce it, hey, shoot it into the hoop, you can do that at some point. If you practice it enough, you're going to be able to do it. But there are definitely some people that have a natural aptitude for gaining the skills or performing better with less work or less practice.
Right. Your book is talking about that.
Yeah.
So 7 ways to know you are meant to lead.
Yep.
So how does that play into that whole discussion we just had?
Well, there are a lot of different ways that can be clues for you. I'll use my personal experience. My family, my dad is a minister.
Okay.
And so from the time that we were children, he said to us that we were leaders.
That's good.
You know, we were very young. We're leaders. That's just kind of your last name's Kennedy. You're expected to lead, right? And so
That's true. When I told them that Robert Kennedy was coming on the show, they're like, "Really?"
yeah, you got him back, didn't you? So
Popular name.
so that was something that we knew very early on, and my dad knew this because his dad shared that with him as well. So there are environments that allow you to have that expectation. There are environments that feed that that lifestyle for you or that place in life for you. And so I think each of us has to just be open to learning and recognizing and knowing what that is. You know, it's you know, there are different families, different cultures that train kids to do certain things. There's some families that are musicians. There's some families that are in the circus. They're trapeze artists. There's some families that are politicians. The Bush family, they're politicians, because that is just something that's promoted in the family. And so in the same way, if we decide that we are willing to recognize our leadership potential and our leadership abilities, we can train that, we can spread that, and we can create that legacy as well.
So, you know, in speaking about leadership, I know that John Maxwell's book says in the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership,
Right.
he does mention that the highest form of leadership is servant leadership.
Right.
Would you agree with that? And if so, how so? Why, how and why is being a servant leader the highest level of leadership?
Well, there are a lot of different types of leadership. You study leadership principles and leadership styles from the great army generals and all of those, and you've got, you know, directive, authoritative, laissez-faire leadership. You got all sorts of different leadership styles, but at the end of the day, it comes down to people. It comes down to people. How do you want them to move forward? Do you want them to recognize a greater purpose in themselves, or do you just simply want them to follow instructions? So a servant leader dedicates themselves to serving people or to helping people grow, to help empower them so that they not only accomplish the purpose of the organization, but they see, hey, listen, I'm amazing too. This is the gift that I have. These are the skills and talents and abilities that I have, and I fit. I'm not just this random thing that's around that I'm waiting for somebody to give me a piece of instruction. I have a purpose myself. And, you know, I think about it as a puzzle. There's this big picture, and we as leaders have got to be able to help people recognize that, okay, this is your piece. You're this piece, but you're not just this piece floating around. Your piece, when it's placed here, allows the entire picture to be whole, and that is a beautiful picture. That's an amazing picture. So a servant leader helps people to understand that and recognize that. And the only way for them to do that is for them to sometimes get down on their knees or to be in the place that the people are, so that they can experience what they experience as well and lead from a position of servitude.
That is so true, because if an organization or a group is building up their members to be the highest and best, you know, representation of themselves, it's actually better for the organization, better for the big picture, better for the goals, and, you know, at the end of the day. So I can see that, I can understand, and, you know, I would aspire to have more of that focus on others, you know, not necessarily having, oh, I'm the leader, but, you know, the big responsibility to, because even the Bible says, to whom much is given, much is expected. So you expect that you're not only focusing on goals, but on the people, and building up those relationships and growing together. That's really good. Okay, well, we're going to take a break. Ladies and gentlemen, please stay tuned, and when we come back, we'll hear more from Robert Kennedy about 7 ways to know that you were meant to lead, and he's going to give us some tips on how you can know that you are meant to lead, and also tell us a little bit more about his book. Hi, we're back with Robert Kennedy of Leap Leadership Mentors. He was sharing with us some ideas about leadership and how you can recognize the leader within yourself, and also potentially unleash it in others, especially those others on your teams and those that you work with. He has a new book called 7 Ways to Know That You Are Meant to Lead. Robert, tell us what inspired you to write this book and a little bit about it.
Well, a lot of times when I write, I'm not always writing for other people. I'm talking to myself most of the time. So a lot of times people ask me questions about what it's like to be a leader, or how did you know that you were a leader? And so the simple question I think we talked about earlier was, yeah, my dad told me. he told me that's what I had to do. But what are some of the things that cause you to recognize that? How can I recognize that in myself? So in the book, I talk about a few different things, 7 ways. One way, leaders are courageous. And when we think about courage, we think about those, Napoleon Bonaparte, or we think about the warriors going straight into battle, and we hear the word fearless a lot these days. And I like to say, man, fear, I don't know if there's such a thing as being fearless, because you've got to have some awareness of, where danger is sometimes, but there's a level of, I'd rather be courageous than fearless. I'd rather have the practice of seeing all of the different possibilities, being wound up, being excited by it, maybe being a little bit fearful that I may not be able to do it. It looks out of the realm of possibility, but I'm now able to stretch myself. I'm willing to stretch. I'm willing to be courageous. I'm willing to be bold and move forward into that conversation, or into that process, or into the thing that is in front of me, so that I can possibly conquer it. And so people that have that idea, or people that are able to summon that inside themselves, that's a leadership quality. That's a way to understand, or to know that, hey, I can do this. I can lead other people. I can lead myself. I can start conversations. I can take the first step. So that's one. Another one that I really like is, leaders choose results over credit. And a lot of times
That's a good one.
A lot of times we do things because we're going to get fame, or we're going to get recognition, or we're going to get affirmation, and that locks you in to the wrong reason. Sometimes it could be the wrong direction, but you remain stubborn or stuck to that because you're getting the adulation, you're getting the pats on the back. But what's the result that you're after? What's the result that you're getting? So I don't need to be recognized, but if I've got a group of people, and all of those people together can drive us to a result, then I don't really care about being recognized. I'm still ultimately a leader, because we got to the result that we wanted to. So, those are a couple ways. I don't want to go through all 7 of them.
Yeah, they got to get the book, right?
Yeah, but those are
a couple of ways to
starts.
know.
Yeah.
So would you say that we should all aspire to be leaders in some capacity?
I don't even know if I should say we should aspire. I think we're there. We already have it innately. There are areas of our lives.
Innate. What if it's not being acted upon or even acknowledged, in oneself?
Right.
Some people are at that point, well, like you said earlier, it's intimidating. It can be scary because you have so much responsibility, and they like to be a little bit in the background. But we're doing it without even acknowledging that we're leading, like you said, as parents do all the time. And then they go into an arena where they have to show courage, or all the things that they're doing as a parent.
Correct.
But then they don't turn it into that same spirit in another arena.
Exactly.
So where's the disconnect? And so they don't want to be seen as leader for what I guess the world, or the business world, has defined it. Even though from what I take from what you're saying, your whole position is that it's not about, like you said, fame, or accolades, or a title, or a position, or recognition. You talked about results. You talked about it being something that is a mindset within that everyone has, but they're not calling it that necessarily. And if you decide to call it that, whatever you call it, it is a necessary skill so that you can not only, because it's not about you, right? So, in that way, isn't that something we should all at some point define and say, yeah, I'm all that. I'm a leader. And I have to lead. I have to be, not necessarily in the forefront, but I have to be influential, because that was your word at the beginning, influence. influence for something bigger than oneself.
Well, we've got to activate it. And I like the word that you used at the beginning when you mentioned unleashing it in others, because it is in order for us to reach success in life. And when I say success, I mean, maybe I'm talking about some of the material things or some of the things that other people recognize. There's another level that we talked about earlier, I believe, called significance.
Right.
But in order for us to reach that point, we've got to recognize that I cannot do it on my own.
Right.
I can't do it on myself. Any level of success that is, recognizable is going to take community. It's going to take other people. So in order for me to get there, how do I leverage my gifts? How do I leverage others? How do I look at my community to reach that place? And the only way for me to do that is to be influential, is to lead, is to activate that piece inside of me that says, you know what, I'm tired of being stuck in this one place. I'm not built to sit in this place. I'm built for better. I'm built for more. I'm built to create something phenomenal. The way for me to do that, I've got to lead. I've got to influence.
Okay, so talking about community now, where, the leadership personality is out front, or maybe not necessarily so, but is engaged, like you said, with a large group of people, a community, and they're going into a certain direction. But that's where the fear is, right? Because now you have the responsibility to not only be your best, you have to make sacrifices for that community. And maybe that's where the hesitance is sometimes, where people don't want to say, okay, because we know leadership is a scary thing if you don't have the right focus and mindset. All the pressure's on you because you're acting and you feel you have to be this great thing to inspire people, but not necessarily, really. You just got to recognize their greatness and then be what it is that and look at me trying to tell you. I'm not trying to tell you, but I want to get into your head, because I think about leadership a lot, and I think people watching want to kind of learn a little bit about it, but then make it realistic. And I love the way we started when we said, okay, now you're putting the pressure on me. I'm not an expert, but I'm a leader. I'm just not necessarily trying to have it as a pedestal, but as a spirit, right? Isn't it kind of like a spirit?
It is.
Yeah.
It is. And the issue, and you mentioned communities and people being nervous about stepping out in front, because when you're out in front, you get credit, but you also get blame. And so a lot of us are nervous about, oh my gosh, if I get blamed, then, that's embarrassment. And the way that our society is set up, a lot of times we don't let go, or we don't allow the past to remain there. Somebody's running for president now, or somebody's running for a public office, and they did something 20 years ago, 25, 30 years ago. Somebody brings it up. My gosh, that's stuck on you forever. So I don't know if I want to be a leader. I don't know if I want to be up front. I don't want to be in a position where I'm visible, because people are never going to let me live down my skeletons.
People are so judgmental.
They
will call you out in a heartbeat, looking for the flaws. Like that's their career, to call you out and make you feel, like you're not able, or I mean, it just diminished, for whatever reason. But you're right.
So the number one thing, that's where the courage comes in. So knowing that I'm imperfect, knowing that I'm flawed, knowing that I'm messed up, knowing that I'm going to use a crazy word, knowing that I'm human, right? Knowing that I'm human.
Come on.
And I'm still able to move to another place. I'm still able to see possibility. I'm still able to see potential success. I'm still able to see, a place that I can make a difference for other people. So I'm willing to step into that, no matter what my past said, no matter what my yesterday, my 5 minutes ago said.
That's good. We're going to take a break. And ladies and gentlemen, when we come back, we'll talk more about leadership with Robert Kennedy. But more importantly, I wanted him to talk about leadership as a brand, and how you can brand yourself as a leader effectively in a continual, consistent basis that'll actually help you to leverage your team, or what you have to do as a leader. So stay tuned. Welcome back to the Mary Harrison Show. I'm still here speaking with Robert Kennedy on leadership. And Robert, before we went to break, we were just talking about community. We're talking about all the amazing things that a leader not only acquires, as they develop it and hone the skills, because it is a journey, it is a process, because, as you are effective, your circle increases or it grows. And new people come and go, and, as you're training leaders, you're building up leaders, a successful leader builds, trains leaders, as you do. That's what you do. You build and you train leaders. I think it's important because I love your personal brand. I've been telling you that for years, how you've branded yourself online and socially, and even when you go out to, do your speaking events and all of that, way you capture the images. And anyone looking at your stuff, your material, your books, you've got the quality of, of the book design, and, when I go to your website or even listen to your podcast, the people you have on, just all great stuff. And I say, this is a leader. I can say that. I know what to look for. I think most people do. But tell me about how your personal brand and how you came to be a leadership trainer, and just how effective has that branding been for you?
Well, you evaluate each year. You kind of, as a business person, you go do your quarterly reports or your quarterly moments or your yearly moments where you evaluate. And the way that we determine effectiveness is probably just from the money. How much business was I able to get this year from doing this specific activity? But inside of that, there is still a heart. There is still a pulse that you've got to say, is this me? Am I doing it because it's the way to make money? Or am I doing it because it's something that is authentic, it's something that is consistent to me, and something that consistently attracts people or causes people to ask you questions or want to find out more about you? So I gauge it by people's responses, personal responses. And so I know that my brand is being effective because people are asking me questions about it. How do I do this? How do I create a business? How do I become a better leader? And because I'm also in the communication space, I kind of merge leadership and communication. The questions I get are about their stories. How can I, tell my story? Why should I tell it? Because my story is not really that traumatic or crazy or significant. How can I tell it better? So those are some of the ways that I gauge my brand and the effectiveness of it, because I'm getting questions centered around certain topics.
Yes, I asked you the question. I said, because I think you had in the end of last year, your strategy session, and you also do mastermind groups. So tell me about that. Your services when you are helping somebody as a consultant, And communication is the core of leadership, I think. It's the art of leadership. I always tell people, because we have that in common in terms of being communication consultants. How do you do that in terms of showing that? Is it the types of format, is it the format of the work you put out? You have a podcast, you're an author, you have clips of yourself speaking on your website. So all of those things are strategically placed so that people can see you in action, not for you to just say, I'm a communication trainer or leadership expert. They can actually see it. So is that how you're branding?
That's one of the ways. I think the biggest way is by, and this ties into leadership as well. The biggest way is by asking questions.
Of who?
People. Just, I ask a lot of questions on social media.
Oh, right. I saw a lot of questions on look, I have to give you a shout out for that. The last strategy session you had going in, I don't want to date this interview, but there was a lot of feedback people were putting on the Twitter, and I don't know what format they were using to discuss it. But they were saying, oh, Robert, you changed my life. It was so impactful. When are you doing the next session? I got so much out of this. There's a lot of bang for my buck. So are you actually tracking that in terms of turning it into a service or a product or adding on to what you do? Well,
that's a piece. So you've got to have so many different, there's a few different levels that you have. There's a service or there's an idea that you have. And then you gauge people's reactions. You add it. That might be testimonials. It might be just comments that you place on a site so that other people can see, hey, I'm not being used as a guinea pig here. There are other people that are involved in this, and not only are they involved, but they enjoyed it. They found success. It was impactful for them.
Right.
It was something that they found value in. And if 10 people found value in it, should I find value? Yeah, I can probably get some value in it as well. So it's a building process for me, making sure that not only am I sharing with the world that what I do is valuable, but it's feedback for me to say, you know, how can I help people even better?
Yeah.
You know, did the session or the planning strategy moment that I offered today, did that work for people, or do I need to tweak it? Do I need to ask more questions to find out what they need, where they are, so that I can then create something better to help them?
And so that's why you ask the question,
Yes.
because you're listening actively and critically, so that your leadership can be in real time.
Correct.
Not in what you think is their fix.
Correct.
You're trying to match what they need with what you have to offer.
Yep.
That's great.
Yep.
So that's really what leadership is. That's
Yeah.
the servant leadership, because you're serving them where they are.
Right.
Oh, wow. Great.
I'm glad you said it that way. Thank you. I appreciate that.
I just had an epiphany. I mean, I was asking, what is servant leadership? But there it is right there. Okay. Thank you so much, Robert, for coming on. I hope you'll come back again.
Sure, anytime. Let me know.
You're welcome. Robert, I enjoyed talking to you.
Thank you.
There's a lot of great information, and I got some really good nuggets.
Yeah.
Can't wait to read your next book. And what's in store? What's next for you?
Well, I've actually got a few other projects in the works right now. I've got a men's leadership devotional that will be out a little bit later on in 2017, and a couple other projects which I can't really go through the titles right at this moment, but from a written perspective, there are about 3 other things that will be released this year.
That's awesome.
So that's
a men's leadership devotional.
Yes.
That's really needed.
Yes,
And I remember you were telling me you are a worship leader at your church.
I am.
Would you sing us a little something
You put me on the spot.
close us out?
Close you out.
That
Wow,
would be
I gotta
great.
think of a song now.
We'll wait.
Let's see. I love you, I love you, I love you, Lord, today, because you cared for me in such a special way. And yes, I'll praise you, I'll lift you up, and I'll magnify your name, your name. That's why my heart is filled with praise.
Wow, awesome. That was good. Robert, thanks for coming on the show.
You're welcome.
And ladies and gentlemen, thanks for staying tuned. That was Robert Kennedy. And if you want to get more information about his books or some of his other services, feel free to visit our website, www.themaryharrisonshow.com. Thanks for being with us on The Mary Harrison Show. See you next time.